On day 5 of data engineering associate preparation, we saw the importance of serverless compute. On the similar lines, there is a compute called all-purpose compute. As I mentioned in the last video itself, we'll check the questions on that. So when working in Databricks, the cluster type you choose defines the performance, cost, and security. Today we'll look at two common exam scenarios. Okay, choosing all-purpose compute and underlying why keeping compute close to data matters for cost and compliance. So we always think that okay, it's a blanket statement that serverless is good, serverless is good, serverless is good, but that's not always the case, and that's where the exam places some of the tricky questions on serverless, where the answer is definitely not serverless, and there are scenarios where we definitely do not check the serverless as a checkbox. So we'll begin the first question. A group of data analysts need to collaboratively explore and run ad hoc queries and build quick visualization. They want to attach multiple notebooks to the same compute environment and share results interactively. Which type of cluster should they use? This is a very specific scenario where there is an interactive development going on. The development team is sitting down and building some product. Okay, so at that point of time, uh, all purpose cluster is something which will help them, because all purpose will create a dedicated environment which can be shared within multiple users and can be done as a kind of a lab place. So for such cases, all purpose is the answer. Second is question is related to security and egress cost. What is egress cost? Egress cost is something when the data goes beyond the cloud account. So what happens is, let's say Databricks, as I mentioned, is a layer on top of your cloud account. So you always own your cloud account. For example, I own my AWS account, and on top of that, Databricks is present. Let's go down. I'll show you with the diagram. So this is the latest diagram from Databricks related to their compute and overall architecture. You can see that the control pane is where the Databricks web application, customer notebooks, job queries, all these things are present. But data plane is in the cloud account. The data plane is in the cloud account, customer cloud account. It can be, let's say, AWS, Azure, or Google. That cloud account can be present, and you have data processing with Apache Spark cluster, which is present here. Okay, so data is in cloud account, control is in customer account. So let's say, for example, your data is present here, and you choose the serverless compute, right? So serverless compute is not present in your cloud account, it is present somewhere else on Databricks account, right? So that's where if you try to perform operation, the data first has to be pulled out and passed on to Databricks account, Databricks cloud space, and there the processing would happen, and result would again come back here. So this cost of moving data out is called egress cost. Okay, and so therefore this question talks about that. So a question is very specific. A financial services company has a highly sensitive data stored in its own cloud account. The data engineering team wants to avoid unexpected egress fees and ensure strict compliance by keeping data processing close to where data is stored. Which part of Databricks architecture hosts the cluster virtual machines that processes the data? So you have to take a decision that your data is going to go outside, right? And many times it's the case that uh, a financial services company has an obligation that customer data cannot travel outside the boundaries of cloud account, because it's not uh, contractually for possible. So for such cases, you can't move the data out, and that's where you will keep the data within customer cloud account, and therefore the answer is customer cloud account. So these two questions are something which I felt were very closer to uh, talking about compute, and Therefore, if you wanted to learn all these concept, let us take a deep dive into it. So first is all purpose cluster. It is an ideal for interactive work and collaboration. As I said, the first question, multiple user shared notebook, quick ad hoc exploration is possible. Definitely there is a cost caveat to it because it creates that environment, so therefore the cost is slightly on the higher side. And then you have job clusters, right? So these job clusters are something which are again isolated, but they would spin up in our own cloud account, okay, or customer cloud account, create, but they are created for job. There is a slight of an uptime for it, so it will take some time to get itself created, installation and all. But yes, for the jobs they are very reliable mode of compute. Okay. Then there is a serverless, which you are all aware of. Serverless is something where it is present in Databricks account, Databricks' data plane, but and it doesn't require any warm up time, but it has certain limitation right now, SQL and Python, but maybe in future they'll bring something like jar facility as well. So this is the kind of concept on which, again, the same comparison table which I mentioned in the um, last last video itself, right? All purpose job, serverless, customer cloud, like different type of clusters are there. Okay, the key takeaway is all purpose cluster for collaboration and interactive exploration. So if the question, so these are all sample question, right? So probable. So maybe around that, if the question come that you have to run a team of multiple people who are collaboratively working, all purpose is the answer. If you have certain situation where you know that it is going to run a job at a particular time, then, and also data needs to be in customer cloud account, then job cluster is the answer. If you are aware that you can transfer the data outside of the boundary of your cloud account, and also are flexible with the load and still not a very complex load, then definitely serverless job compute is the best option. And again, one of the key concept which I mentioned, the second point, where customer VM always live in your cloud account. So any compute that you take for the cloud account will always be inside your cloud and will have security and all those things provided by the cloud. So these are the points I just wanted to mention. Thank you for listening into this, and on the similar lines we'll create the next few videos. Please subscribe. Thanks.